Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are calling in, dialing in from around the world. Welcome to this session to learn more about the Finance Club at Fuqua. For those who are prospective students, we look forward to helping you understand how Finance Club works with students who may be interested in finance careers. For you admitted students, obviously more of the same, but in neither case, we're here to answer your questions. I'll kick it off with a few questions that we have heard from you all. So I am Jack Oakes. I am the Sector Director for Finance at the Fuqua School of Business, which simply means I'm a career coach for those who want to be in the financial services industry, whether that be in asset management or alphabetically all the way across to venture capital, a lot in between. I'm here with Taylor Truex and Prateek Bontha, and I'll let them first introduce themselves. I'll come back with an introduction and we'll kick off the questions. Okay?
Thank
Taylor?
You. Hi, I'm Taylor. I'm originally from the Bay Area in California, but have slowly made my way across the United States and was most recently in New York City before coming to Fuqua. I do not come from a finance background. I come from the pharmaceutical industry doing clinical trial management, but came to Fuqua really interested in pivoting into finance, and I will be going back into finance full-time once I graduate for JP Morgan's Healthcare Investment Banking Group.
Got it. Hi, everyone. I'm Prateek. I'm from Hyderabad, India. And like Taylor, I wasn't in the financial industry. I was a software engineer. And I came to Fuqua to do investment banking, same as Taylor. And I'll be going back full-time to Barclays in their technology group in New York.
Terrific. And they are both, as you may know, co-presidents of the Finance Club, elected positions. And so, as I mentioned, I'm the finance career coach. I've been here at Fuqua since August of 2019. I've been working with MBAs in career services since 2005, so about 20 years. And that was after I got my MBA way back in the late 80s, where I then spent some time in industry. Actually, marketing is the functional thread that weaves through my career, and in many ways, career services, helping students market themselves, helping companies market themselves as students, is in part a marketing role, but more about that later. Let's kick it off with some questions if we can. Here's one that comes from someone in the audience. It says, give us a recommendation. What should we do before starting the full-time 2-year MBA program to recruit for, in this case, investment banking? I'm from Brazil, by the way. First, let me kick that off if I may. So as a student or as an admitted student coming into an MBA program, or even as a student during that program, it gives you the great license to have conversations with so many different people because you just want to learn from them about their roles, their careers, what kind of work they do, so that you can get a better understanding of what may be a fit for you. That could be investment banking, it could be something else. So my suggestion would be to talk with anyone in Brazil who's in business about their business, their role, and why they like it. Taylor, what would you say?
Yeah, I would echo the fact that explore your options before you're dead set on investment banking. I actually didn't come to Fuqua thinking I was going to go into investment banking. I thought I was going to lean more towards like a corporate strategy, corporate finance role. But prior to coming to Fuqua, I interacted with financial-focused individuals at the firm that I was working at to get a sense as to like what their story was and how they got into the corporate finance position, corporate strategy position that they were in, and kind of how what their journey was to get there. A lot of that did end up tying back to investment banking, so it was definitely in the back of my mind that investment banking was a path for me. But also continue to show your passion for the industry of finance as a whole. Listen to earnings calls of companies that you find interesting, and it's okay if you don't know all of the lingo necessarily that they're using on their calls. That's what an MBA program like Fuqua will do. They will teach you what that lingo means, but having exposure to what's going on behind the scenes of companies, I think is important.
Good.
Yeah.
What would you add, Prateek?
I think I'm gonna echo what Taylor said.
Mm-hmm.
Look at earnings calls, just read Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg when you have some time. But having said that, a second year I talked to before coming here said, honestly, just take some time off, spend some time with your family and friends, because it's going to be a stressful time when you're here. So I think just follow that advice, because once you're here, your second years will help you out. The CMC will help you out with whatever you want to do. So just take some time off, chill with your family and friends, and then, come here.
Here's a broad suggestion for those of you who are going to go to any MBA program, whether that be Fuqua or anything else. If you have not had accounting, I highly suggest you take accounting before you get here, at least through the Khan Academy or something else.
Right.
I'll point to myself as one who, when I was admitted to business school way back when, that was a great thing. But they said, Jack, you can come only if you take accounting and statistics in the summer beforehand. And quite frankly, had I not taken those, I'm not sure I would have completed my MBA program because of the learning curve, at least for me, on accounting. There are a couple other questions that have popped up, but let me turn first to others that have come in. So purpose and community. How does your club support students interested in financial services or finance? Prateek, do you want to kick that off?
I'll kick that off. So as a club, what we do is we first put up these roadmap sessions. You can think of them as like awareness sessions of what each industry does, because you might have a broad overview of what investment banking is, what private wealth is. But we just do these roadmap sessions so you can understand better what you want to do. We also host the Finance Symposium, which is our flagship event, where we showcase speakers from all industries, and we, again, let hopefully the students know what each industry does, what they're getting into. And once we've done that, we as second years, we help you help you with how the process is going. We help you with mock interviews. We help you with mock coffee chats. We help you network better, right? But I would say our main purpose as the finance club is to just make sure you get to know each industry and you make a choice which is right for you.
Yeah, I think just to add to Prateek's point, your second years, especially at Fuqua, are a huge resource for you to get insights into what was the internship like in investment banking or corporate finance, or what was it like to recruit for these various finance functions. And I think something Fuqua does really well is it is a very student-run institution, and the second years kind of have this inherent desire to kind of give back to the incoming first years because the previous second years did it for them. And so I think one of the biggest resources you'll find if and when you come to Fuqua are your second year counterparts of people who just went through the recruiting process. It's fresh in their mind, and then they're also just coming off of their internship, so they got a taste of whatever finance function they went into.
Good. Here's another question that just came up, and this is from Rulin Wang. What advice do you have for incoming students who've done investment banking and want to use an MBA to get into PEVC? Obviously stands for Private Equity Venture Capital. Here, by the way, Private Equity and Venture Capital is an actual club called the Private Capital Club, newly formed about 1.5 years ago. It is separate, though very collaborative with the Finance Club. Do either of you want to take that?
Yeah, I can speak to it a little bit. I'm not going to act like I'm a professional in the PEVC world because it does have a separate kind of club entity associated with it. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of classes focused in private equity and private capital. In fact, I took the private capital private capital course last term, and it was really insightful into the industry as a whole. The professor brought in industry professionals who run, their own firms and are doing this for a living. So that's definitely an opportunity to network with those individuals. I know the Private Capital Club is really plugged into local presence within the private capital industry. And so they're really good at bringing speakers to campus to engage with students. So there are definitely resources available for people interested in the private capital side of the finance sector.
One of those resources, if I may, is a group of 3 of us, Ben Thomason and Josh Cohen. Both of them work with the Duke Innovation and Entrepreneurship area, and the 3 of us put on a PEVC workshop, multi-series on how to search for roles in PE and VC. It is what we call very much a custom search here in terms of student-directed, and it is helped in collaboration with us because few private equity firms or venture capital firms actually come to MBA campuses to recruit. Many of them understand that for students who want those roles, they will seek out those firms in private equity and venture capital.
Agreed.
Prateek, anything else to add on that?
No, I would say nothing else to add. Just saying, adding to Jack's point that it's going to be a custom search where you search for the opportunities yourself. You're going to be networking a lot more than, say, an investment banking role, where it's more structured. The banks come to you. In this case, you'll be reaching out, so just be cognizant of that fact.
Great. And Jackson Lovechuck has a unique question. Do students have the opportunity to raise capital and create their own themed investment fund run through Fuqua and the Finance Club? My quick answer to that is I don't think so. However, there is a fund run through CASE, what is this Center for Impact Investing, that is student managed. So there is an opportunity for students to manage funds while they're here. I don't think there's one to raise your own capital.
I don't think there's one to raise your own capital either. I would add Duke Capital Partners is an opportunity for students to get involved in a VC-like environment. It's a relatively competitive process, but it is the essentially the Duke University's VC fund working across healthcare, tech, like companies. So that's definitely an opportunity, but I don't believe there is an opportunity for you to raise your own funds. It's obviously done through Duke fundraising on its own. There is also the VC lab, which is a course opportunity where you would get to work directly with a VC fund or a firm and kind of interact with what they're looking to invest in and things like that. There's also the leveraged buyout lab, again, a very similar thing just within the private equity world. So there's opportunities for you to get experience and a look into what it looks like to deploy capital. It's just not necessarily capital of your own.
Yeah. I'm taking the VC Lab course right now, and I would say it's been one of the best courses I've taken at Fuqua.
Great.
Like, we're working with a company which just got its seed funding and is going for its Series A funding, so we'll be presenting on what they should position themselves to get that Series A funding. So that's been really fun.
Terrific. Awesome. And then right here in the Research Triangle Park is the Center for Entrepreneurial Development, CEDNC, which has been around for decades. It was developed when the Research Triangle Park was first developed here in North Carolina to support entrepreneurs. And there are many venture capitalists and other service providers, and students can get involved with that very large organization. Trent McCauley has an interesting question. How would you characterize the backgrounds of students in the Finance Club? By the way, we can call it finance or finance, right?
Yeah.
Were most coming from banking and finance, or did they largely come from other fields and were looking to transition into finance? One member, classmate of yours, professional baseball player who's in the Finance Club, right? Yeah. So a variety, if you want to share any more details on that.
I think I would say maybe I don't know the exact numbers, but maybe 20% or 30% have previous financial experience, and the rest of us have no financial experience. And honestly, as we were saying before, that has no bearing on if you get into the financial industry or not. Everyone I've talked to, everyone I've interacted with who's already working there, I've always been as long as you're enthusiastic about what you want to do, you're interested in the financial industry, you show passion, that's good. All of this can be learned. It's not rocket science, as they say. That's a popular phrase you'll hear. So as long as you put the work in and you're interested about finance, it shouldn't be a concern or worry.
Right.
I would just add that in general, when you're coming into an MBA program, you're looking to make some sort of pivot. Typically you're not looking to do the exact same thing that you were doing prior to the MBA program. Mm-hmm. So the program as a whole is overall, I would say, a lot of people looking to pivot into doing something significantly different than what they were doing before. And Prateek and I are kind of the poster children for pretty big pivots coming from non-financial backgrounds. So it's definitely doable if you don't come from a finance background. Don't let that deter you or daunt you if you are genuinely interested in pursuing finance.
Yeah, very good point. You may have heard of the phrase transferable skills. And that's so important because clearly there are certain skills and abilities needed for success in different roles. Sometimes you're fortunate enough to have those direct skills and abilities and those experiences, many times not. So what are the transferable skills where you haven't done that exact thing in that exact role, but something very similar to it? Yeah. So being able to understand what are those transferable skills and how do you best communicate them to show the value you will add in that different role is critical.
Yeah, and just a thought that I had to quickly add. Part of coming to an MBA program is leaning into what you don't know and showcasing what you do know. So take the opportunity when you're coming into an MBA program to really lean into, if you don't know finance, take as many finance courses as you are interested in. If you don't know management, take management classes. Really take the opportunity of these 2 years to lean into, I don't know this industry or this field particularly well, and I'm excited to learn about it, so I'm going to really lean into that.
Good point. All right. And here is a question from Abilio. I hope I have gotten that correct. I'm joining from Miami, Florida. I'll be down there in a couple months. How does the Finance Club support students who want to recruit for less structured careers, such as asset investment management? Thank you. Well, first, I'll maybe let you all just describe the structure of the Finance Club as part of that answer.
Sure. So under the umbrella of Finance Club, we have investment banking, asset management, private wealth management, and corporate finance. We mentioned earlier that private capital covers VC and PE industries. Within part of Prateek and I's platform when we ran for Finance Club co-presidents was to bring broader exposure across all financial sectors. Historically, the Finance Club has been investment banking leaning. However, our class and this current first-year class has indicated that they are, interested in more opportunities within the asset management, private wealth, and corporate finance space. So we have taken this opportunity to kind of buff up some of the resources that we provide. We've re-implemented roadmap sessions for corporate finance, for example. We've had discussions about how we can bring different asset management firms to campus to discuss with students. Participation in case competitions. For example, UNC, which is about 15 minutes down the road, hosts an annual case competition, stock pitch competition, where you get exposure to asset management firms in that particular industry. So it's definitely something that is important to Prateek and I to continue to provide resources to those who are definitely interested in financial sectors outside of investment banking.
Yeah.
It's a great role in asset management, investment management. I've spent a number of time, a couple roles in those firms, T. Rowe Price and Legg Mason. It is also a role that sees far less churn than consulting or investment banking or some others, because it is such a great role that people stay in it. So the recruiting opportunities are a bit more limited. There are a couple firms that go to MBA programs, not many. It is very much, as we mentioned earlier, about private equity and venture capital, a custom search and taking advantage of the variety of stock pitch competitions, because there's recruiting that goes on during those competitions. A great role to be in, however. Okay. Here's a question again about IB. Are people interested in IB generally recruiting towards Wall Street? If by that question, Jan, you mean Wall Street, the street in New York City and Lower Manhattan, where firms used to be? Well, it's actually recruiting towards Midtown Manhattan, because that's where all the firms are. Most of them are anyway. But if you mean by that New York specifically, well, Taylor is an example of one who is not New York specific, though she is quote unquote working on Wall Street. Correct?
Yeah, so I actually did go down the path of recruiting for New York, or to be placed in New York, and my path kind of took a turn for the better or for the worse, who knows, but I'm going out to San Francisco instead of New York. It's a healthcare hub, and so I'm really excited about the opportunity. We also, being based in North Carolina, a lot of banks are in the Charlotte area as well, and so there is actually a day where first years can go out to Charlotte and network with the banks that are based in Charlotte. So there's an opportunity for you to recruit for New York, Charlotte, San Francisco, and we also have people who had recruited for Houston, which is really focused on oil and gas, and then Chicago, which tends to be focused on industrial, diversified industries. In Chicago. I don't know if you have anything to add.
I think one thing I would add is if you're recruiting for, as they say, regional offices or somewhere other than New York, they're more targeted towards industries, like specific industries. Like Houston is oil and gas, SF is healthcare and tech. So only if you're interested in those industries, you would recruit for those cities. Otherwise, mostly all of the other industry groups sit in New York. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about which office do you want to go into.
Okay. Another question, and this comes from Chindenma Duru. What are your thoughts on infrastructure investment, and if there are any projects around such careers? Well, I think there are many, many hundreds, if not thousands, of infrastructure investments. There are likely entry-level MBA roles in those areas. It's not one where firms are coming to Fuqua or other MBA programs, I think. But what have you all heard on infrastructure?
I would say, I've met a couple of classmates who have been interested in this thing, and it's been on them to kind of network and, as Jack says, custom search for those opportunities. But at least in our school, we have some classes which deal with infrastructure, investment.
Yep.
I think the real estate class that's one of them, I think. But I think it's still an evolving space. You see a lot of data centers and everything coming up. So I think as of now, it's going to be a space where you network on your own. But I maybe in the next few years when they become more mainstream, maybe you'll see it become a more structured path.
And if I can build on your comment about it's on them, meaning on students for their search, that does not mean students are alone in their search because they have second years, they have their own fellow classmates. Networking with your own classmates is important in this area. And also you have the Career Management Center. And so that we are there to help students as they put together a target list of firms and as they begin to identify contacts to get in touch with at those firms, whether they are Fuqua alums, Duke alums, people from their own networks. I always tell students to be very expansive in thinking about your extensive networks because you never know where you may have run into someone or meet someone who could be a lead for a role for you. Okay? Let's see. Here's a broader question. We can answer this briefly, I think, from Johnson May. Good morning. Thank you for hosting today's event. You're welcome, Johnson. What is the investment banking recruitment process like at Fuqua Daytime MBA program? In a word, it is structured. In another word, it is intense. In another word, it is condensed. It essentially starts mid-September and ends up in mid-December towards January. And it's worked in collaboration with the Finance Club as well as the Career Management Center. Other key highlights of that, having gone through it just a year ago?
I can add a little bit more detail, I guess. So again, part of Prateek and I's platform was getting Fuqua students better prepared for investment banking recruiting. So the Finance Club actually sent out resources during the summer session that Fuqua hosts in July, in early August, I guess. So we do our best to prepare you guys and kind of give you a look into what you need to know for these interviews come December. But I definitely echo with Jack the moment you step foot on campus fall 1, your recruiting journey begins in investment banking. You have, from September to early October, firms are coming to campus to do networking events and, corporate presentations to talk to you about what their firm is all about. You'll do hundreds of sip circles, hundreds of coffee chats to network yourself into these banks. And then come mid-October during the fall break, you will go to what is called Week on Wall Street, sometimes referred to as Week in Cities, where you have the opportunity to now go visit the banks that have come to campus on their turf in Wall Street, happy hours, more exposure to other banks that maybe don't necessarily come directly to campus. And then post-Week on Wall Street is really kind of the game time of the recruiting journey. You're progressing into more coffee, like your final coffee chats, and you're also starting to progress into technical interviews, and you're prepping for your super days come early December. Did I miss anything?
No, I think she covered everything.
Yeah.
But I'd also say that I think a lot of those terms might be confusing right now. Coffee chats, sip circles, week on Wall Street. So I'm just going to say it's mostly about you getting to know the bank and them getting to know you. So think of all of them as networking opportunities, an opportunity for people to know people. It's just that once you come on campus, once you come to school, people will let you know more what it's all about. But yeah.
Right.
And everything you're doing, sorry, Jack, everything
fine.
you're doing to prepare and apply to MBA programs for these admission interviews and things like that, you're building your story already. So you should feel confident that you have a good, solid story and, you know, interview skills coming into an MBA program in preparation for investment banking recruiting.
Good point. And on that, you're already doing what we recommend everyone do through this recruiting process, whether it's finance, consulting, or anything else. It's all about turning strangers into advocates.
Yeah.
So you're meeting people for the first time, building a great relationship with them, showing them how you're going to add value to their company, their role. Heck, I tell students that they can have a very positive impact on someone's career prospects, meaning a hiring manager gets known for bringing in great talent.
Yeah.
Guess what? She's going to get promoted for that, right? So you all can have an effect on people's careers. Riza Majabin asks a question, any particular tips for networking events? How exactly do networking events specific to IB work, and what should you expect out of it? Frankly, we will cover this in depth, or any other school will cover it in depth once you get here. And so I will table that question. Only to say networking is critically important.
Yeah.
You likely know a bit about how to do it now. In some cultures, it's fairly new, but we can go through some tips and tricks on how to be successful in that. What habits or prep strategies differentiate the students who succeed in finance recruiting from the ones who seem to be having a more difficult time? Prateek, you just spoke to that, and that's about networking and building relationships, right?
Yeah, I would say it's about networking and building relationships. It's about, like, as Jack said, having advocates, right? Like, you know, you reach out to them, you let them know how your process is going, you make them root for you, kind of. But I would say something else that's also important for finance recruiting is you stay on top of things. Like, once you're here, you realize how many, like, so many things are coming at you, classes, you have some social events, you have recruiting events. So I think it's important that you stay on top of things, you plan everything out, and sometimes you might fall behind, but it's important that you catch up to stuff.
Right.
So I would say that's something that's really important.
Yeah, I would echo Prateek's point of don't spread yourself too thin and know exactly what you want in terms of finance recruiting when you step foot on campus for fall one, and go all in on, you know, what you're here for and, you know, why you've decided to come and get an MBA.
Good. Well, we're coming up on time. Let's close it out with this last question. I know there are a number of others we have not gotten to. Chandra Shekhar Reddy asks, hey, Team Fuqua. Thank you for the Team Fuqua. Would like to hear what is the timeline at Fuqua for corporate finance recruitment, and what resources at Fuqua are most helpful for someone pivoting into corporate finance or corporate strategy roles?
I can take that. So corporate finance, they start in September itself. Like, depending on which subsector of corporate finance you want to go into, like, do you want to go into tech, then you have companies like Microsoft and Amazon. You want to go into healthcare, then you have companies like GSK, or you want to go into, like, companies like Exxon or Chevron, right? So each of them have their own timelines, but generally tech companies start the earliest in September, and then throughout, like, December, each and every company has their deadline on when you should apply. So I would say it's kind of flexible depending on where you want to work on. And as for your second question on how we help you prepare, again, it's on you to reach out to the second years who interned at these industries, ask them what their experience was, how to succeed in these opportunities. We also have our corporate finance chair who's going to help you with all of this stuff. You'll have your first few friends to prep with, but I would say that's the gist of it. Did I miss something?
No, I think you nailed it.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'll close off with this. It's been terrific to work and collaborate with you two, Taylor and Prateek. And it's because they've been very strategic as they've led the Finance Club, which covers a lot of different things, so making good choices about what to focus on. They've also been disciplined in their delegation to those working across asset management, private wealth, corporate finance, investment banking, and the like. And they've also taken and been very resourceful about taking advantage of the resources at Fuqua, because there's a lot of institutional knowledge here at Fuqua across the staff. So you all, as you come in, can look forward to more of that. Obviously, Taylor and Prateek will not be here, but I bet you they'll be back here for recruiting.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Okay. All right. With that, I think we are just past time. Thank you very much for your time, and please send in your questions. There must be an admissions way you can do that, because there are a number of questions we did not get to as I look through these. These are important questions to know about before you look at Fuqua. Come to Fuqua or some other school. By the way, go visit all the schools that you can, because it is all about making a good fit decision.
Yeah.
Schools are different, and you will notice and feel that. Okay?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.